are finding funerals too expensive in Newfoundland. That's not good either. Lots to get to. Let's get to it. First, I want to talk about women and how women are not confusing whatsoever. And the Supreme Court, according to the National Post, says Supreme Court decisions say the word woman is confusing. Unfortunate. A decision in a sexual assault case implied that the complainant should be properly known as a person with a vagina. Is it a man who's been mutilated? Is that this woman who committed this crime or something to that effect? Theo says this is a perfect example of how Canada is broken. The Supreme Court of Canada is full-blown Marxist, might have to change the definition of judge and nonpartisan. And Donald Best says the Supreme Court of Canada is once again proven to be a Marxist, batshit crazy woke. Problematic to refer to a victim as a woman. She should have been called a person with a vagina, ... And there's a whole lot more in the article here. And that's absolutely insane. And they're trying to erase women. They're trying to erase women on multiple fronts. And here's the US military and wokeness is sharing this minute-long speech. And I thought, I've got this other thing to show you. And I thought that we could do both things at once because I don't want to listen. This is a song by Dylan Mulvaney, and he looks like a man. And this just dropped. I think it's called Days of Girlhood. So I could see maybe why the Supreme Court of Canada is confused if they looked on the internet wondering what a girl is, because pretty soon this is going to be the top result, which is just absolutely insane as well. And I'm going to show you this unbelievably ridiculous video while listening to a man talk about how, well, just listen. Oh, this is the wrong one. Here we go.
All too often, I hear leaders talk about providing everyone with dignity and respect like it's an aspirational goal. That's not good enough. Dignity and respect is the bare minimum. It's the floor of where we can be. We must set our sights higher and focus on intentional inclusivity because there are still far too many people out there, not just LGBTQ individuals, that feel marginalized, shut out, or discriminated against. So for all of you out there, I ask you to set out your symbols of pride, share your pronouns in your email, particularly if you're a person who doesn't think they need.
Obviously, this is a man, and talking about how being, having dignity. Dignity is this floor. Meanwhile, you've got Dylan Mulvaney in a caricature of a woman. Look at the size of his arms. Like, that doesn't look like a woman. Look at the shape of his body. Women have hips and other curves. I've looked at women. I know what a woman looks like from the front and from the back. And Dylan Mulvaney looks like a man in a wig. Dignity. Are you kidding me? And I think, honestly, this doesn't pass the sniff test. Melissa Lantsman is responding to the Supreme Court of Canada. No, there's nothing confusing about the word woman. It's common sense. It's not hateful, bigoted, wrong, or unfair in any way. This is just complete nonsense that moves nothing forward. It's not progress. Here's the definition from the Oxford English Dictionary. Woman, noun, it says, sense is referring to an adult female human being. So an adult human female, right? And look at the smarmy grin on this person's face. It's just ridiculous. Absolutely ridiculous. And before I move on, this still has to do with sex, but this has more to do with parental rights and trans ideology, etc. I want to talk about women as well. The other day on the Kitchen Table Talk, we were talking about voting, and I was talking about how I thought that our voting system had been usurped by splitting the household vote, and they used women in order to split the household vote. So it used to be if you were a man who owned property, well, I think you could just own property. I don't think you had to be a man. I think there were famous women who owned property, which was not usual in the time, and they got a vote. They were able to vote. So, but that's details that were kind of tangential to the conversation. But fundamentally, voting was tied with being male and being a property owner or something to that effect. And I was saying that I thought in a configuration like that, it would be very difficult to propagandized to a whole bunch of farmers. Say you have 30 farmers who own 30 farms, and they make up a city or something to that effect, right? And they support a smaller population, a couple thousand people. You're not going to convince that. You're not going to wedge those people, the city folk versus the farmers, blah, blah, blah. The way to wedge them is to wedge them right in the household. And so I think that just like Black Lives Matter was used as a cancer on society, they targeted black people. They told black people, you've been used by these white people to build their society. They took you as slaves. They built their society on your back. They stole from you, and now you deserve reparations. You deserve to be equal or something to that effect. And then that throws a monkey wrench into the society. That's done on purpose, done by the same people who are doing all of the rest of these things, spraying the skies, coming up with Black Lives Matter. In the 60s, they were trying to wedge the family. Prior to that, they were trying to wedge the family as well. They were trying to wedge the vote. And they did that through suffrage, women's suffrage. And if you go back and you look at the history, I was looking at the history of it, and this is years ago now when I started Canada Poly, but I was looking at the history of it, and there were a lot of women who were saying, I don't know what the whole big deal is about. I tell my husband what I think, and usually we agree, and he votes for both of us. Blah, blah, blah. And I wasn't saying that women shouldn't have a say, but I could understand how people could come to that conclusion, because it's difficult to flesh all of this out, especially when there's a whole bunch of other people wanting to talk, and doing the kitchen table talk the way we do it doesn't lend to fleshing this out a bit. But I didn't flesh it out very well, and I apologize for that. My point wasn't that women shouldn't have a say. My point was there were people who recognized an opportunity, they weaponized it and wedged people against each other. It works maybe a little bit, but I think that there are other configurations that would work that would protect better against that kind of attack. But I'm interested in what you think. Do you think that women getting the vote was a benefit? Do you think that women have it, like the structure changing in that way or broadening in that way is a benefit? I don't know. I think that it's been utilized to nullify people who disagree, and bolster, say, like a liberal style party at the expense of common sense isn't the right word, but there's been a shift. It's been manipulated and it's been purposeful. So I think personally, but let me know in the comments what you think. Here's the trans stuff. Apparently Manitoba's getting on board with saying parents should be informed about pronoun changes. And I mean, the answer is, if a parent gets informed about a pronoun change, then that whole thing is being derailed. Like it's abusive. Telling a child who's female that they can be male, or male that they can be female, and all you have to do is let me cut off that thing there or those things there, that's abusive. That's grooming. There's all sorts of terrible, awful things that will happen if that is allowed to continue. So if somebody says, oh yeah, by the way, your child is now using different pronouns and they're going by a different first name and blah, blah, blah. My kid's not going to that school anymore, period, because somebody's grooming them there. And holy smoke. So letting the parents know is a red flag that something is happening. And the people who are trying to target children want to keep that going. But the most egregious part of this is in this second part of the headline here. Here's the headline. Manitoba's school kids should need parental consent to change pronouns, the interim PC leader says. Wayne Owasco, sorry, I forgot that wrong, apologized after the premier characterized the comments as transphobic. So if somebody characterized my comments as transphobic, I would come back and say, trans children only exist in their abuser's mind. And then I'd let the newspapers have fun with that. And holy smokeroni, I wouldn't apologize. I'd triple down. Are you kidding me? Come at me, bro. Let's have this debate. You want to have this debate? Let's have this debate super publicly. I'm not going to cower away and apologize. What a weak response. Jeepers creepers. I wish we had strong leaders, people who had belief in the things that they say. Nana is responding to this. Let's talk about the ArriveCAN scandal, because it's a monstrous scandal. Holy smoke. Nana says, if you work for the Liberal Party, you can make $2,600 an hour? WTF. Well, no wonder they're not finding the groceries expensive. Everybody's an IT contractor on the side, or they're part of an IT contractor gang, and the gang is getting paid millions. And I mean, it helps with your groceries. So Can't complain, right? An IT company doing no IT work, just fudging resumes to get government jobs. WTF. Garnet Genius says, jaw-dropping, ArriveCAN contractor estimates that they got at least $2,600 per hour from taxpayers for recruiting. So yesterday was the one of the two GC Strategies guys, and the other one will be today. So there's clips. Well, I don't know if we'll watch this one. There's a couple of the clips that I wanted to watch. The World Has Gone Mad says the Attorney General's office, AG's office, fires 2 staff members for earning money from the government from government contracts. A 3rd employee in the office is being investigated. Just how many are there? It's a huge gang. It's a huge gang. Just the one spreadsheet I showed you, there were there were a whole bunch of different companies, and the cross-pollination, like there were multiple people involved in multiple companies as directors, as board members, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. It was well thought out to look legit, above board, the whole deal, and the government got scammed by its own employees. Think about that. How many are there? Lots more that we don't know about, I think. And here's the article. The Auditor General's office has fired 2 of its employees after learning that they were earning money from the Government of Canada contracts on the side. The employees did not disclose this information to their managers. None of the employees involved were auditors, said a statement from the Office of the Auditor General. In 2 cases, an investigation was conducted and the employee no longer worked for the OAG. The OAG confirmed that the 3rd employee is also being investigated in relation to outside work. As first reported by the National Post, the investigation led the OAG to revoke the employees' security clearances and then terminate their employment. Both cases were first referenced to the RCMP in early January 24. On the advice of the Mounties, the OAG referred them to the Ottawa Police Service the following month. The OAG said it would not comment further on the case of the 3rd employee because it remains under investigation. The OAG said the now former employees did not have any outside contracts with the OAG and that it will not be disclosing the names of the companies and with which they were involved. The OAG said that it will be rolling out additional ethics training for employees in the coming months and will ensure that going forward additional controls are implemented to verify outside employment or contracts. So weird. There's something going on. It doesn't seem like procurement rules are being followed by anybody at all. It seems like, in fact, it's pretty fly by night, fly by the seat of your pants. If you know the right person, you'll get the government contract and nobody will give it a second glance until the Conservatives got led by Pierre Poilievre, which is interesting. And now they're opening up all the contracts and having a look for irregularities and calling people back. And so it seemed like for years, like the Liberals have been in charge for 8 years. So it seems like this has been going on for a while. It seems like it was the perfect crime. Taxpayers had no idea. The management had no idea. The government had no idea. Nobody seemed to care about it. Why not get in on it, right? It's almost like fire going around the office. Like, I just set up a quick company. It's just a numbered company, costs $60, and bingo, bango, bongo, you're an IT tech, and you're getting work shunted to you from GC Strategies or somebody else, right? Long as you split the profits and everybody stays tight-lipped about it, victimless crime, except those taxpayers and the government. Holly Doan is reporting this. MPs summoned National Defense Minister Bill Blair for questioning on how employee became a millionaire while moonlighting as an Indigenous contractor. Isn't that racist? You're not allowed to question that, right? Oh, Indigenous millionaire, and all the knives come out. Larry Brock is asking questions of the ArriveCAN people. So this is Christian Firth, one of the GC Strategy owners. And Larry Brock says ArriveCAN was a success. It was a success for GC Strategies, a 2-person IT company that did no actual IT work and got paid nearly $20 million. For everyone else, it didn't work. Nobody wanted it. It cost taxpayers $60 million. And this is Trudeau's ArriveCAN. So here's the back and forth with this guy.
I think our work was done very well, and I feel like the application was a success. I believe it was 260. I believe the application was a success. We had 260 million times the app was open. Right?
A success. You're saying that your application was a success. You're serious now, right?
I think it did exactly what it was supposed to. I think our work was very.
I think it did exactly what it was supposed to. Well, I mean, they can't be held accountable for the government's bad planning and the fact that nobody wanted it. They should be held accountable for the fact that it was $60 million. That's probably, like, it was supposed to be an $80,000 app. and it ballooned to $60 million. So that's not great. They can't be blamed for nobody wanting it either. I mean, nobody wanted it. And if you get a call for a widget and you think to yourself, who the heck wants this? you don't turn your nose up at $60 million to build the widget that nobody's going to want because you don't care. Why do you care? Right? It's not your thing. You're going to get paid. The person who's paying me wants it. So it doesn't matter to me. So there's some criticisms that I'm kind of like, whatever. But the $60 million, it was an $80,000 app. And I mean, there were some guys who did it in a weekend. So how much, and I've said before that the GC Strategies guys maybe did no IT work, but quarterbacking a project is not easy. Fair enough. It is work. Now the conversation is it worth $20 million on an $80,000 app? No, right? No, but I wish it wasn't misrepresented the way it is misrepresented because like there is work being done. They were spending time on it, like regardless, and as well, regardless on whether you think that it's legitimate or not. Like Elon Musk doesn't think anybody who doesn't write a line of code belongs at Twitter. If you don't write a line of code, you don't have business being in the chain of command for code, I guess. And I can agree with that to a degree. Some people, though, need a liaison between ownership and the coders because coders speak one language and ownership speaks another. And so when ownership says, I want it to do this, you need somebody to be able to explain exactly what needs to be done through media, so mock-ups and conversation and et cetera. And sometimes that's somebody who doesn't code. Sometimes that's somebody who's quarterbacking at the top who can read code, but who hasn't been coding because they've been managing other projects and checking code and so on and so forth. So there is work that goes into Q being a project. There absolutely is. And sometimes there's value in somebody doing what the GC strategy guys do. There are whole businesses that are predicated on that model. Okay. So I don't want to undermine that. I want to make sure that people understand that is a legitimate model. We're just talking about they scammed the system. Like they scammed the system big time. Almost, I think to a level that's criminal. Like it's a huge amount of money. If you were going to get $50,000, $80,000 and you turned it into $60 million from your company, right? Say your company is Apple. Would that be wrong? Would that be bad? Like probably, right? Like, but if Apple paid you, so if Apple, the company, had $60 million and a whole bunch of, kind of government corporate structure-ish, right? If an arm of Apple paid an outside company $60 million to put together something, would the contractors be responsible? I think so. If they're the ones fleecing Apple, if they were the ones saying, yeah, it's $60 million, but Apple was like, hold on a second, we just did this for $80,000. Why is it $60 million with you guys? That's the question. That's the crux of it. How is it that much money? Who got what for what exactly, right? So, and not that I feel like we're missing it. It just seems like they're oversimplifying the message just a little bit. Michael Barrett says, Trudeau's Arrive scam middleman caught lying again. GC Strategies owner admits to private meetings with government officials involved with Trudeau's Arrive scam contracts. So the back and forth is a minute and a half. We're just going to listen to the last 30 seconds here because Barrett says, last time you were here, you said you didn't meet with these people. Now you say you're going to give me the information because you don't have it in front of you or you can't remember. So I'm skeptical, he says. Here we go.
I'll get you that information.
So this is interesting, and so again, you'll have to excuse my my unwillingness to take at face value that you're going to provide us information after, because I asked you these questions when you appeared before this committee before, and you said that you hadn't met with officials, government officials outside of government offices. That, sir, and you can check with your lawyer or with a dictionary, is a lie. It's perjury.
So, are they going to be held accountable for that? I don't know. For lying or for inflating the contract to the tune of $59 million. Don't get me wrong. I think there's a lot of improper dealings going on. I think that the GC Strategies thing, it stinks to high heaven. I'm not trying to protect these guys saying they're doing good work. I'm saying that there is work in the context of the job that they're doing. But I think that it seems like massive scams from all different levels of government, and not just from the GC scammers guy or the GC Strategies guys. The people in the AG's office, everybody seems to be scamming, and it seems like victimless crime. Nobody's getting hurt, so why not take my piece of the pie too? Just like the curb payments, right? People who didn't need curb payments taking curb payments because they thought it wouldn't be tracked or something. I'm not sure. So seems crazy, seems absolutely wild. And how do we deal with it? It doesn't seem like it's getting dealt with. It seems like it's being exposed, and maybe the agreement will be elect Pierre Poilievre and we'll deal with this. But I mean, that's a lot of faith. Although, again, the polls are saying he's going to get a supermajority, more seats than Justin Trudeau's majority. So he's going to be able to do and justify by saying, I've got a mandate from the electorate to do a lot of very big moves. So, I mean, it's not great, because look what Trudeau did with his big mandates, right? Kean Bex, let's talk about the carbon tax. That's one of the bad things that Justin Trudeau did with his big mandates. Kean Bex is interviewing Danielle Smith after her and Justin Trudeau had a meeting in Alberta. And here's that back and forth. Here we go.
How did the meeting go?
I would say we focused on areas where I think we do have some common ground. As you know, I've been trying to get the federal government aligned to our 2050 target to be carbon neutral. And we've had some good projects like Air Products and the Dow Chemical. Those are net zero projects. We're working together on Heidelberg, which would be net zero cement. We still have some issues. We're waiting to see the budget, whether there is some clarity around the investment tax credit for the Pathways project, and if there's support for a national Indigenous Opportunities Corporation, similar to what we have, so that we can assist in getting the Trans Mountain Pipeline into private hands and Indigenous hands. And then we also have a massive opportunity for export of ammonia to South Korea and Japan. And I just wanted to make sure that we don't lose that opportunity. We need to see a signal from the federal government that they're going to be supportive of that.
I'm going to fast forward to 2 minutes here, because what she says at the 2 minute mark, she's already said once that she's, two net zero projects for net zero 2050 for Alberta. So just the same program, just a little slower. Danielle Smith, what's your game, Danielle Smith? But here she is talking about how, we got to bring in more people. We got to bring in more people to build those houses, because we just don't know how to build houses. Somebody pointed out when I shared this yesterday, and pointing out that she's talking about importing people to build houses. They said, who else anywhere in the world builds houses like we do? Nobody, except for the United States. The United States kind of builds houses like we do. But if you go to the United States, they don't have basements, right? In Ontario, we have dugout foundations, poured concrete basements. And in the States, they just kind of, some places, I don't know about everywhere, but they're just up on slabs, or sometimes they're on a concrete pad, sometimes they're up on blocks. But a lot of the houses don't have basements. And so, nobody builds houses the way we build houses in Canada. So why are we importing people from foreign places that don't build houses the way, we don't have bamboo scaffolding, right? In Asia, they have bamboo scaffolding, and it's super cool to watch those guys work, but I'm not planting a bamboo field to put scaffolding up at our housing construction sites. That's just not happening. We don't need their expertise because we have scaffolding. The bamboo's cool, man, but check this out. So I have issues with this because it seems idiotic, right? It seems idiotic. It seems stupid. It seems like we're not actually solving any of our own problems. Here's Danielle Smith talking about we got to bring some people in, build houses.
Opposition leader, whether it's the premier's weighing in on this, will make a difference.
Speaking of inflation, rent is spiking in Alberta more than anywhere else. Do you think maybe it's time to end the Alberta is Calling campaign while we get caught up on some housing?
We do need to have more skilled workers coming to build those houses. So our next phase of it is going to be the launch of our Alberta's Calling tax credit. That is targeted specifically at those building trades jobs. We know that Dow Chemical, for instance, is going to need 6,000 to 8,000 construction workers. And so we will have a very focused campaign to make sure that we're bringing people in with the skills that our economy still needs.
So she wasn't talking about immigration. She was saying the come to Alberta campaign, the one for maybe internally in Canada. But the reporter was correctly saying we don't have any houses for anywhere to live, for anybody to live. So are we going to cool that campaign? And she says, well, we need 16,000 people to for jobs and things like that. So it just seems out of touch to me. But maybe I got it a little bit wrong. I thought she was talking about bringing in people. I thought it was more of an immigration centered question, but. C'est la vie. Trudeau was asked about the carbon tax yesterday, and I think it's yesterday anyway, and he was saying that he's not about picking winners and losers, and that, well, Dan McTeague says, this guy is theatrics over substance. It's not a market-based solution. It's an attempt at market price inflation and distortion. It's failed Canadians, and his thespian antics won't undo the harm his net zero policies are inflicting on Canada. So why is Danielle Smith on board with them? Here's Justin Trudeau, and No is highlighting this. I think I've got it right here. Yeah. No's highlighting this. And he says, Trudeau defends the carbon tax today in Alberta, says he's opposed to a state-directed economy favored by Tories, says they want to use the heavy-handed government, says the Tories want to use the heavy hand of government through regulation and subsidies to pick winners and losers in the economy, as opposed to trusting the market. And here, No says, this appears to be a new talking point, that the carbon tax is a market-based approach and that the Liberals oppose state intervention. Here's Trudeau again saying the same. In the same presser, he opposes using the heavy hand of government with regulations and subsidies. Here's that.
Well, how do you fight climate change? There are lots of different ways you can do it. You can bring in the heavy hand of regulations to force people to do different things. You can bring in different incentives and subsidies and rewards to invest in companies that are actually doing the right kinds of things. But that all involves the heavy hand of government weighing in on how we're going to do that. I prefer a cleaner solution, a market-based solution of saying, you know what? If you're behaving in ways that are going to cause pollution that is going to impact the whole community, you should pay for that pollution so the community then doesn't suffer the negative sides of it or have to clean it up on their own dime. Well,
I thought at the beginning that he was describing his solution, his heavy-handed, top-down, you have to do this, get vaccinated, blah, 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 blah. But is he out of touch? Is he, I think, making mental gymnastics in order to make his plan fit his ideal, whereas the reality of his plan is it doesn't fit the ideal? Trevor says this is also puzzling. The government, like the opposition, favors the heavy hand of government, picking winners and losers through regulation. The oil and gas cap, clean fuel regulations, clean electricity regulations, etc. Case in point, right? Hard to conclude anything, but the government doesn't know what it's doing. So Justin Trudeau is just talking nonsense, which is usual for him, right? Absolutely usual for him. This is No again. Trudeau defends the carbon tax again today in Alberta, says he's opposed to the state-directed economy favored by Tories. But that's, at first, I don't think the Tories are saying that. And second, that's not what Trudeau is doing. So Keith is talking about this. Scott Moe says there's now 7 premiers calling on Trudeau and the NDP government to pause the April 1st carbon tax hike. Why won't they listen? And Keith says they won't listen because the federal NDP coalition are radical ideological extremists. Yes, they absolutely are. And I did have a clip of Trudeau directly saying that he wasn't going to he wasn't going to delay the April 1st carbon tax increase, but I can't find it now, so sorry about that. But here's Cian Bext. He says, Bexty, saying, documents reveal the Liberals' climate change department paid the World Economic Forum to produce a report that made an economic case for their environmental agenda, including the ever-increasing carbon tax that goes up April 1st. So the World Economic Forum is influencing our Prime Minister with regards to taxes in Canada. That's not great. That's not great for a whole litany of reasons, but it's not great because we're not in control of our own governance. And that's very, very hard to learn, hard to accept. Hank says the climate change cultists blame climate change for 8,000 shootings. You just can't make this up. So The Guardian in the UK is running this headline: almost 8,000 US shootings attributed to unseasonable heat. A study. Yeah, they can get those studies to say anything, eh? Research suggests climate crisis may contribute to increased gun violence by pushing temperatures beyond normal ranges. Oh, yeah. Man, it's so hot. I've got this gun right here, and I'm just going to go shoot people with it because it's so hot. That makes no sense at all. Here is Cian, and this is wild. This is under electioneering and how popular people are, but this seems desperate, in my opinion. This seems desperate, if you ask me. Trudeau's guards blocked, grabbed, and harassed me while I peacefully waited to ask him questions about the carbon tax hike. After removing me, 3 police vehicles followed my car and cornered me on the highway, so I couldn't go home. Insane behavior from a desperate tyrant. So this is, not that it's not surprising. Oh, there's, remember his nose? Very, very red nose. Here's the full story of what happened, including the part where the guards followed me after the fact in an apparent show of intimidation. So that's petty. Petty is not the right word. Trudeau's trying to intimidate journalists that he doesn't like. And they do that to political adversaries as well. Antifa is mobilized to protest PPC, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. There's all sorts of things that are very concerning with regards to how outside groups are used to intimidate people, and now police, so not even outside groups. White Rabbit Warrior is sharing this. Welcome to Canada, where the lowest standard is our new military motto. Clubfoot, brain damage, blind and deaf, no worries, we'll take ya. So, for real, military ditching aptitude test for some applicants will start accepting recruits with medical conditions. Yay! Military launching trials to address recruitment issues. Listen, we can't recruit healthy people, so why don't we take the infirm? Tell me more. The military has dropped its aptitude test. Oh, man. I mean, like, there are a few people, I'm not going to lie to you, that I wanted to send them this article and say, hey, good news, man. You can join the military now. They've dropped the aptitude test. You could reach the standard now because. Hello, everyone. Thanks very much for watching. This is just a short version of a longer show. If you'd like to get the whole show, you can go over to CanadaPoly.com and sign up for a subscription. Just look in the drop-down tab for Shop and Donate and look for subscriptions, and you'll get immediate access to the full show. Love to see you. Thanks for watching, everybody. Have a wonderful, wonderful